My name is Perry Plantenberg, and I'm excited to pass it to Eric Zhang.
Hi, welcome everyone to our Cupertino City Council Climate Candidate Forum, hosted here by the Cupertino Action Team of Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action. And thank you for coming. Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action is a youth-led nonprofit that's dedicated to combating climate change as well as its effects through advocacy and education. This candidate forum today is going to focus on sustainability as well as local climate policy, looking into how our city council candidates plan to support sustainability throughout Cupertino, especially if elected to city council in the upcoming November elections. This virtual event is nonpartisan, and all the candidates for city council have been invited to attend. We'll also be live streaming this on Facebook. My name's Eric, and I'm a senior and also a constituent of Cupertino. And our fellow Cupertino members and I will be taking turns asking questions and moderating our forum throughout. I'd like to pass it to Clarabelle now.
Hello, I'm Clarabelle. I'm a senior at Cupertino High School. And before we start this event, we would like to acknowledge our partners for their help advertising. There's Ecterra Mothers Out Front and Tino Eco. Thank you for helping us publicize this forum. I'll be passing it off to Prachi.
Hi, I'm Prachi and I attend Cupertino High School. Now, please help us welcome our city council candidates who are here today, Claudio, Bono, and Rod Sinks. We know how busy your campaign season must be, and we're so grateful that you've taken the time to attend our forum tonight. And I'll pass it off to Cynthia.
Hi, my name is Cynthia. I attend Homestead High School. I'm actually currently here on campus, and I am part of SVYCA's Cupertino Action Team. We'd love to start with some quick introductions, and you can introduce yourselves and your vision for Cupertino. We'll start with Claudio Bono, then move on to Rod Sinks. Claudio Bono, please go ahead.
All right, making sure you can hear me well. All right, my name is Claudio Bono, Cupertino resident for over 10 years now. I dedicated myself to serving our community through various nonprofits, including Chamber of Commerce, Historical Society, and Rotary Club. I serve as the Parks and Recreation Commissioner, and in my day-to-day life, I'm a managing director for 2 hotels and a winery located in Cupertino. Since 2014, I brought millions of dollars in hotel taxes to our city, and I'm also recognized for my commitment to helping our community. I believe it's time for fresh new faces, especially if they are successful and understand the need to work with one another. And it's time we build Cupertino for the next generation. As a dedicated hotel managing director, I'm deeply committed to championing environmental change in Cupertino. Our beautiful city thrives on its natural resource, and it's really our responsibility to protect and enhance them for the future generation. So I envision a Cupertino where sustainable practices are at the forefront of our community initiatives and prioritizing green spaces, reducing waste, and promoting renewable energy sources. And we can create a vibrant, eco-friendly city not only attract visitors, since I'm a hotel and I'm attracting them here, but also foster a healthy environment for all of us here resident. And if elected, I will definitely work hand in hand to ensure that Cupertino remains a shining example of sustainability and innovation, and ensure that we continue public outreach. That's the most important project for me, and explain daily on why it is important to safeguard our city and our planet. And I'm glad to live in California, since we're on the forefront as well of these initiatives. And last, I believe in transparency and integrity. My goal is to bridge gap between residents and the city council, ensuring that all voices are heard and to have a city that thrives. So visit Bono for Cupertino2024.com. And if you can vote number 3 on the ballots. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claudio Bono. Now we'll hear from Rod Sinks.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us, Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action. I'm Rod Sinks. Cupertino residents want results, and I have a track record of delivering them. As a prior council member, I fought to make Main Street Cupertino into a vibrant hub. And now it's time to build a downtown in our city that we've never had at the old Valco site, with entertainment, dining, and retail. and more housing that lets more people live closer to where they work, which has major climate benefits. I have the expertise to negotiate a better project than allowed by state law, and you'll note, despite project proposals in 2016, 2018, there were 2 of them, 2020, 22, we've not gotten anything done. I'll promote housing there for teachers and around the city and our families, and that's vital for strengthening our schools, which are, as you know, experiencing declining enrollment. As your mayor, I launched a groundbreaking bike pedestrian plan to ensure safer routes for our kids, and we're now known as a bike-friendly city. I introduced SV Hopper shuttles to serve students, seniors, and commuters. I'm proud to have led the charge for Silicon Valley clean energy, bringing us less expensive and greener electricity since 2017. And as board member and the founding chair of, as board member and chair of the Air District, our Bay Area Air District, I helped secure a deal with a cement plant, which dramatically improves our air quality. As a trustee currently for the Foothill, for the Fremont Union High School District, I fought to maintain electives, expand transportation options, modernize our campuses, and enhance climate education. And I'm part of the Climate Collective, as I know some of you are. I'm a seasoned high-tech executive, a scout leader, a robotics mentor, and proud past president of the Rotary Club in Cupertino. I'm resident focused and don't accept developer funding.
Thank you so much, Claudio. Sorry. Thank you so much, Rod Sinks. In this forum, the candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question and 1 minute for closing. We have 7 questions that we will be asking today, alternating between who will go first. These questions were not shared to the candidates beforehand, and if time allows, we will also take questions from the audience. So please start thinking about your questions and feel free to drop them in the Zoom Q&A. Starting with our first question. Climate change and environmental degradation affect and exemplify many different issues in social, developmental, and conservation aspects. Especially taking note to the graph on the left, what do you think are the most critical climate issues right now in Cupertino? We'll first start with Claudio Bono and then Rod Sinks. Claudio Bono, please begin when you're ready.
All right, so air quality. We have an increased vehicle emission and industrial activities that can lead to air pollution affecting public health and the environment. Drought condition as well and water scarcity are significant concerns impacting local agriculture, landscaping, and water supply. And the concentration of buildings and infrastructure can also lead to higher temperature in urban area and also heat-related health issues. So development and urbanization can threatens local habitat and species, leading to a decline in biodiversity, and an increased waste generation and the challenge of recycling can contribute to pollution and resources depletion. So climate change can lead to a more intense rainfall event, overwhelming local drainage system and causing flooding. And so addressing these issues requires a combination of community engagement, sustainable practices, and policy changes to mitigate their impact and promote environment conservation. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you for sharing, Claudio Bono. Now, Rod Sinks, please begin when you're ready.
Well, I appreciate that you put the answer up on the screen. I mean, for me, right, you go for the low-hanging fruits because we have to do everything we can to reduce our carbon footprint. And okay, I already talked about this, but back in 2015, I, as mayor of Cupertino and a mayor in Sunnyvale, mayor in Mountain View, we got together and we looked at the model that Marin Clean Energy had at that time. And we worked to bring 12 cities eventually into the fold, having done a complete study. So that was very important to get our electricity supply to be greener. Now, the opportunity is to take carbon-based emissions and turn them electric. That means our energy supply for transportation needs to become electrified. Our built environment, our buildings need to become electrified. And so we also need to continue to work on the single most difficult thing, which is transportation. One of the reasons we got going with Silicon Valley Hopper was VTA was cutting back bus service. That they announced this in 2016. In 2017, they implemented those changes, and we said, we need a gap filler. We need something to get us to transit. We need to be able to get around the city. We talked to various folks, and they said, Lyft can't help us. They won't give us data. We wanted data that would justify later recovery of fixed route bus service. We went to a specialized provider, and now the city has ample data from people actually using this service. We have a lot of people going to and from the Caltrain stations every day in Mountain View, and we have and Sunnyvale. And so that has been a big success in getting people out of their cars. Bikes are another form of transportation.
Thank you for sharing, Rod Sinks.
Yeah.
I'll pass this on to Purva.
Right. Hi, I'm Purva Marfatia. I'm a senior at Cupertino High School and a co-lead of the Cupertino Youth Climate Action Team. And now we'd like to turn to issues surrounding electrification in buildings. So Cupertino had one of the strongest REACH codes in the nation, requiring all-electric new construction. But in response to the Berkeley ruling, we know that the city is exploring new building codes to achieve the intent of all-electric new construction. Do you support the efforts to electrify new construction, and would you support a building code that regulates NOx or nitrous oxide emissions from home appliances in new buildings as a way of achieving this? And for this, we'll start with Rod Sinks and then move to Claudio Bono. So Rod Sinks, when you're ready.
I was instrumental in getting things going at SVC. It was an SVC initiative that brought REACH codes to most of the cities that adopted them. At the Air District, I chaired in 2020, and in January of 2020, right here at the Cupertino, at the hotel on Main Street, we had a retreat of the full 24-member board that I was chairing, and we began work on low NOx rules for water heaters and furnaces. Now, finally, after all this rulemaking and COVID, we actually got those rules through the board after lots of gnawing of teeth and gnashing of teeth. And those rules, I think it was March 2023, I went up for that meeting to advocate for what I'd started as chair. And so what's coming regionally, of course, are rules that will, on a NOx basis, no other basis, not a CO2 basis, require that furnaces, HVAC systems, and water heaters all be electric. And that's on the basis of our authority under NOx, not on the basis of carbon, which is really not in our jurisdiction. So this is going to have a major effect. I would like the city to be proactive in this regard. We need carrots and we need sticks to move the needle on climate. And we're going to have to help low-income homeowners do this work, make these changeovers in buildings. But in a few years, we simply won't be installing any more replacement units that burn natural gas. One way or the other, we're going to get this job done under some laws and some authorities, and I'm fully behind that.
Thank you so much. We'll turn now to Claudio Bono when you're ready.
I would just say the exact same thing as just Rod said. So the push for electrification in new construction is a significant step forward towards reducing greenhouse gas emission and promoting sustainability. So supporting all electricity building codes can lead to a decrease of reliance on fossil fuels, ultimately contributing to a cleaner environment. So regarding the regulation of nitrous oxide and other emission from home appliances, implementing building codes that focus on these aspects could enhance air quality and public health. And this could particularly be beneficial in urban areas where air pollution is a concern. However, it's crucial that any regulations introduced are balanced and take into account the feasibility for builders and homeowners, and ensuring that they are practical and economically viable. So overall, supporting electrification and stricter emission regulations aligns with broader goals and environmental sustainability and public health. Thank you.
Thank you for your answers. We'll be moving on to next question. Next, we want to discuss city planning to emphasize sustainability throughout Cupertino. Walkable cities is a concept that emphasizes an increase in green spaces, efficient public transit, safe routes for pedestrians and bikers, and decrease in car-dependent structures. What part of the walkable cities concept resonates with you, and will you try to implement it in your policies? If yes, how so? We will be starting with Claudio Bono and then Rod Sinks. Claudio Bono, please begin when you're ready.
Okay. Well, incorporating policies that support efficient public transit and safe pedestrian pathways and dedicated bike lane can significantly enhance urban, I call that livability. Implementing these ideas would involve collaborating with local stakeholders and urban planners and the community to create a cohesive plan that prioritizes sustainable development, start leaders, and so that's overall. And the part of walkable concept is resonate with me because, again, it's all about affordability and housing affordability and trying to bring as many houses here so that we can contain residents that can live here and can walk and bike to work. But in order to do so, we need to have the right housing options for all types of income here. So if elected, obviously, I'm more leaning towards trying to ensure that we have a walkable and bikeable cities. But in order to achieve that, we really need to make sure that we have the housing affordability, like I said, for all types of income. And that's very important for our future here in Cupertino. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Claudio Bono. Rod Sinks, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Well, we unfortunately developed at a time in the middle of the last century when it was fashionable to craft dead ends, closed courts, turnarounds, places that were hard actually to get to. And it was done that way quite intentionally, right? People wanted to be on a quiet street. They didn't want people coming down it. And those attitudes actually remain among some folks today. If you look at how much work it took for us to get the Regnart Creek Trail from City Hall to Cupertino High School, you'll have some idea. You know, people are just nervous that, you know, somebody's going to bike along or walk along and steal TV sets and other things on these trails. But when we create them after time, people actually come to appreciate new trails, open gates that were once closed. So it takes work, but I will tell you, it's been 10 years since a student died on our roadway. Ethan Wong, October of 2014, died, and he had an altercation with a truck on his way to Monte Vista High School. Whenever we make it more possible for to create a bikeable and walkable city, it means that we can get around without necessarily getting in cars. And that's a good thing for our health. It's a good thing for our ability to be with neighbors. If we're all isolated in silos on our dead ends, you know, we need to do what we can to open up these streets to make them more walkable, to improve the sidewalks in some parts of our city that grew up that were unincorporated parts of the county, and make it possible for people to meet each other on our sidewalks and our trails.
Thank you for sharing, Rod Sinks. I'll be passing off to Tejas.
All right, we'll be moving on to our next question. Cupertino is constantly growing and developing. What would be the ideal balance between economic development and environmental protection in Cupertino? We will begin with Rod Sinks and then move on to Claudio Bono. Rod Sinks, please begin when you're ready.
Well, let's talk a little bit about why housing is so important. You know, we have a lot of folks working in our city that come from places very far away. They may be our teachers, the people that serve us in restaurants, the people that are our public safety officers, the police, the sheriff, the firefighters. If we get people closer to to get them to live closer to where they work, we all benefit because they're not having to make that daily hour-and-a-half ride in from, say, Stockton to Cupertino. A primary tool here is to get the economic development done, to get the housing so that people can live here. This is a huge climate benefit. It's a human benefit. And that really is what I'd have to say about that. I think as for economic development, I do not see it to be orthogonal from environmental protection, but actually integral to it. If we want resources in the city to do climate programs and other things, we need to restore the tax base. You know, we've lost $30 million due to a recent state determination about where Apple sales taxes due. And economic development is the tool by which we can build that more housing to house more people at all income levels. And when we do that, that will be a big benefit. You know, I worked very hard on the cement plant to reduce emissions there. And we have to look at how we take that land now and reform it so that it has general public benefit. And I'm all for ensuring that reclamation is done according to law.
Thank you for sharing, Rod Sinks. Claudio Bono, please begin when you're ready.
Sure. For me, the ideal balance between economic development and environmental protection in Cupertino involves various key strategies. First is the Smart Growth Initiative. It's a focus on developing mixed-use area that integrate residential, commercial, and recreational spaces, which reduces the need of extensive transportation, encourages walking and biking. Sustainable business practices, which promote incentive for businesses to adopt sustainable practices such as energy efficiency, waste reduction, and the use of renewable resources, and foster an economic growth while minimizing environmental impact. Obviously, invest in efficient public transit options to reduce traffic congestion and greenhouse gas emissions, improving access to public transit that can encourage more residents to use it instead of relying on cars. Incorporate green spaces and nature-based solution into urban planning. Parks, green roof, community gardens not only enhance the aesthetics and appeal of the city, but also support biodiversity and improve quality in air. Again, always public engagement. Involve the resident in this input honestly can help ensure it aligns with the community values and environmental priorities. And as far as what we have to establish also a clear environmental and carbon neutrality, renewable energy targets, and habitat preservation. So, and if we implement these strategies, I'm sure in Cupertino can create a thriving economy that respects and protects the natural environment, ensuring high quality of life.
Thank you for sharing, Claudio Bono. I'll be passing it on to Jeremy.
Hello, I am Jeremy and I'm a sophomore at Monte Vista High School. Waste minimization has been a crucial issue and area of improvement for cities. Currently, organic waste, in other words, biodegradable waste that comes from a plant or animal, makes up half of what Californians dump in landfills, including in Cupertino, which leads to the release of methane, which is a very potent greenhouse gas. What will you do to further reduce organic waste disposal and improve food recovery outcomes? Claudio Bono will answer first, followed by Rod Sinks. Claudio Bono, please begin when you're ready.
Okay. Well, to further reduce from organic waste disposal and improve food recovery outcomes in Cupertino, there are several strategies. Expand and promote citywide composting initiatives that encourage residents and businesses to separate organic waste. I gotta tell you, I gotta see every day on the little panel what I need to do. It's not easy, but providing accessible compost bins and educational resources can facilitate participation. Establish partnership with local food banks, shelters, and to create a robust food recovery network. It could help redirect surplus food from restaurant and grocery stores to those in need, reducing waste while addressing food insecurity. Offer incentives to local businesses to donate excess food instead of discarding it. This could include tax deduction or recognition programs to showcase their commitment to sustainability. So, and launch awareness campaign to educate a resident about the importance of reducing waste, organic waste, and the benefit of food recovery. I will say workshop and informational brochures and social media campaigns can be effective tools as well. And implement or enhance curbside organic waste collection services for household and businesses, and or provide separate bins for organic waste. Can make it easier for residents to participate in waste reduction efforts. And we have to encourage local composting and organic farming initiatives to utilize organic waste as compost. It's not only helpful to reduce waste, but also support local agriculture and enhance soil health. So, and by implementing all these strategies, then we can improve food recovery outcomes and contribute to a more sustainable environment.
Thank you for sharing, Claudio Bono. Rod Sinks, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Well, I was part of the Santa Clara County Recycling and Waste Reduction Commission for quite a few years as part of my service as a prior council member. And we worked on this problem a lot, and the state has put on lots of mandates, which make it frankly very difficult to design programs that can actually be effective and meet the standard of reducing this waste and upcycling it for use. And one primary way, though, which is a result of state law, is requiring that a large part of that waste stream be diverted. It's hard to get compliance on that, but as an example of what we've done, I helped start our Rotary Club's Climate Action Committee. And one of the things that we've been working on a monthly basis is working with Hunger at Home. So this organization, a nonprofit in our area, we've funded refrigeration for them to be able to take food from, say, Levi's Stadium that's left over that would get thrown away otherwise, and deep freeze it immediately, put it into portions, deep freeze it immediately, and then, yeah, distribute it to people in need. And so these sorts of initiatives that are semi-public initiatives, but get help from the private sector are super important. As part of our work at the Air District, we worked hard on a study of all methane emissions as part of looking at other pollution. And you can see a map of pollutants. If you go to ACLIMA, you'll see a Bay Area map of methane emissions. There's a lot of mapping now also being done from space, and there's a new satellite up. So this is all important work that lets us focus on where the need is best.
Thank you for sharing, Rod Sinks. Now I'll pass it on to Prakati.
Now turning to the question about right here in Cupertino, there's so many blooming tech companies and entrepreneurs. How do you think Cupertino can hold these larger tech companies accountable for their emissions, right? Especially with us being in Silicon Valley? We'll start with Rod Sinks and then go to Claudio Bono. Rod Sinks, whenever you're ready.
It was a surprise to some, not to me, when a couple of years ago, Cupertino did a new emissions inventory, and we found that our natural gas consumption in the city had gone up substantially. Well, it turns out that that was a result of the fuel cells that Apple put in at the new Apple Park at Apple's spaceship. These things are certainly offer resilience to the companies involved. They're very expensive capital-wise. They say, well, it's better than diesel generators, but the problem is once they're installed, they are used 24/7. Now, Santa Clara worked on an ordinance to ban these things. I think we have to take a very hard look at whether these Bloom Energy cells, that's the primary company, also a Silicon Valley company, are the right thing. I happen to think not so much, because a backup generator that's only turned on once a quarter to make sure that it's working is actually, even if it's powered by diesel, emitting a lot less pollution and hydrocarbons, or specifically a lot less, in this case, CO2. I should correct myself, it's CO2, than a fuel cell that's going 24/7. So we at Silicon Valley and Clean Energy, although worked with companies, although they could go directly to the grid and buy electricity, we worked with them on sleeve agreements to keep them as our customers, which help keep rates low for all of us. And to do that, we had to provide a unique benefit for them.
Thank you so much, Rod Sinks. Claudia Bono, whenever you're ready.
All right, so for me, I think we can approach this through various strategies, implement stricter local regulations that requires tech companies to disclose their greenhouse gas emission and set up clear reduction targets. It could involve regular reporting and compliance to audits to ensure adherence to environmental standards. I always say this because I'm also with the Chamber of Commerce, and we're here to protect businesses, but we need to offer incentives such as tax breaks or grants for companies to invest in sustainable practices, renewable energy, or emission reduction technologies. That can be encouraging companies to prioritize environmental responsibility personally, but foster transparency as well by requiring companies to publicly report their sustainability effort and emission data. I think it can be made accessible to the community or allowing residents to hold companies accountable through public scrutiny, I would say. Engage in partnership with tech companies to develop sustainability initiatives that align with their business practices. And I think that collaborative efforts can definitely lead to innovative solutions for emission reduction and shared goals. And involve resident and local organization in discussion about corporate practices and environmental impact, and encourage local government contracts and partnership to prioritize companies with strong sustainability commitment. And we have some, and it can set the precedent and encourage others to follow suit. And I'd say invest in research and development initiative, focus on green technology and practices. By supporting innovation, well, Cupertino actually can help foster solutions that tech companies can adopt in reducing their emission. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claudia Bono. Now, kind of turning to us youth. How do you plan to work with youth and other, as well as just local organizations, to continue advocating for climate solutions throughout Cupertino? We'll start with Claudia Bono and then head to Rod Sinks. Claudia Bono, whenever you're ready.
How will we work with youth and other local organizations to continue advocating for a climate solution. First and foremost, I gotta say, I looked at your summit a month ago on YouTube, and you guys are doing a fantastic job. And it's thanks to you guys that I think that we're continue to be in the forefront of and advocating for a climate solution, and especially here. So how I will work with you is just to make sure that we keep contact and make sure that we are hearing each other and hearing the issues that goes between the youth organization, local organization, and see if we can come up with a plan. And again, we're in the center of Silicon Valley. We can use technology and apps and programs and use also all types of systems that the city has in order to dispatch information. I always said it, community outreach remains a big issue. And I think that if we can come up with a plan and make sure that we're invite everybody and everybody can be heard, but also reminding everybody through those outreach, community outreach of what it is that we're trying to do and why we're doing this, I think that's going to work well for this generation and the next generation and the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claudio Bono. Now, Rod Sinks, whenever you're ready. I believe you're muted. Okay, no worries.
Thank you very much. I've been doing this work for some time. You know, the bike lanes didn't just happen because I was an advocate and supporting them. It happened because an organization called Walk Bike Cupertino came along, and we had literally dozens and dozens and dozens of students who showed up who demanded them and said they wanted to be safer getting to school. So that was on you. Maybe not you personally, but it was on the youth of the city that we were able to make that happen. Okay. So Walk by Cupertino is the most powerful lobbying organization as far as I'm concerned in the city, and I love it. They have 3,000 people on their mailing list, and when they want something, they know how to get a call to action out. And congratulations. If not for you and your writing of Silicon Valley Hopper, we wouldn't maybe have continued the program. You know, it got a rough start. We launched in 2019. We then had the pandemic. We then shut it down. Then we restarted it. It's you that showed up to write it. So we have lots of students coming and going to school, to Monte Vista, to Cupertino, some to Homestead. And I worked very hard as a school board trustee to expand this program now into Sunnyvale. I think they're going to receive the same state award that we did last year with Santa Clara, and they're going to start service. And when we do that, instead of 4 cars driving to one of our high schools, we're going to have 1 car, and it's an EV, right? So you helped do that. We've invited, as a Cupertino Rotary Club Climate Action Committee, we've invited youth to participate with us in our solar installations. And we've had some of you do those in nonprofits in our city. And we've also invited you to help us install heat pump water heaters in your homes or the homes of anybody, frankly, who's interested. And we do that with a nonprofit called Sunwork.
Thank you so much, Rod Sinks. Now we'd like to hand it over to audience questions and open the floor. And I'm going to hand it over to Prachi for this section.
Again, thank you so much, candidates, for all your insightful responses. And as Eric said, we now like to open it up to audience questions for all the candidates. In this case, the 2 wonderful ones in attendance. Please type your questions in the Q&A, and the candidates will have 2 minutes to answer. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment.
Oh, there's a new question.
Now there's one. Gwyn says, I'd love to hear more from the panelists about housing issues in the context of climate solutions and reducing transportation emissions. And I'm especially interested in changes to zoning and increasing housing density and affordable housing in the city.
Would you like one of us to go first?
Yeah, we can
Thank-
start with Rod Sinks.
And
Thank you.
will you be able to repeat the question again? That would be great.
I think if you type in Claudio, if you go to the Q&A thing and bring that up, you'll see the question there.
Oh, awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you, Rod.
So, I've talked about my interest in creating a downtown for Cupertino. The risk in the 52-acre site, which is Valco, is if the property owner simply wants to get out, they could do so in a very short time. Within 2 years, they could sell off all that land in pieces, and we get maybe 1,000 townhomes. We wouldn't get any downtown. We get housing, but that isn't the density that we ought to be getting at that site. We ought to have 3,000 or 4,000 units of housing there. And if we build it there, right, we take pressure off other parts of the city where, we now have proposals due to the builder's remedy for a 5-story structure on a third of an acre lot, housing 20 or 25 people next to single family homes. People are going, they're going crazy about that. And I would say, the right place to have density is in our urban core. So obviously it's where Valco is today. It's along Stevens Creek Boulevard. It's along De Anza Boulevard. And if we build it there, we ought to go up. We go higher, we go denser, and then we can provide efficient public transportation to and from these sites and from our Apple campuses and our other office complexes and from Caltrain and connection to, VTA bus lines. If we increase our density, we will warrant more and more frequent service from VTA. And this is important for us to get rid of that CO2 thing, which was the dominant part of the chart for the very first question you asked. So I think increasing height and zoning there and not making it just 3 to 4 stories as we get with townhomes, but 6 or 8 stories away from the immediate neighborhood. So you rise gradually from the neighborhood to the west, but we'll get much more housing there and much more density that warrants good transportation solutions at that location. And my time is up.
Thank you, Rod Sinks. Now we'll go to Claudio Bono. Please begin whenever you're ready.
All right. So we need to encourage mixed-use zoning that can create a vibrant neighborhood where residents can actually live, work, and play. Again, we have a 52 acres plot in Valco, and so we need to make sure that we reduce the long commute, but obviously we need to lower the transportation emissions. So if we integrate residential, commercial, and recreational spaces, well, residents can access services and amenities within walking and biking distance. And with Valco, we have an opportunity to create that specific legacy. So we need to promote higher density housing development that can help addressing housing shortage while also minimizing the urban sprawl. So we need to be more compact living arrangement can support efficient public transit system. And we need to make sure we build in areas where transportation is easy to accomplish. And we also need to ensure that affordable housing options are available in Cupertino because it's crucial for us to survive. We need to have, like we always say, housing for all types of income here. So, and the more we have them here, the less traffic also we're going to have. And so encouraging development around public transit hubs can significantly reduce the reliance on cars. So we can create walkable neighborhoods in Cupertino with easy access to public transit. It will minimize transportation. Sure. And implementing green building standards for new housing reduce the carbon footprint of residential buildings. And will include also sustainable material, energy efficient appliances, and renewable energy sources. Hope that respond the question.
Thank you so much, Claudio Bono. We have our next question from Sashank. Hi, Sashank. Sashank says, I was wondering if the panelists could give their perspectives regarding e-waste in Cupertino in the Bay Area. Since we live at the heart of Silicon Valley, there's a lot of technology. I've personally tried recycling e-waste and raising awareness regarding like holding onto devices for longer periods of time and repairing them and avoiding purchasing them very frequently when it's not necessary. Is there anything you guys feel can be done at the city level regarding eliminating the excess of old electronics? Oh, and we can start with Claudio Bono.
Sure. Well, addressed e-waste at the city level is crucial for promoting sustainability and reducing environment impact. So we can implement in order to tackle these issues, we can implement the following: organizing regular e-waste collection days where residents can actually drop off their electronics for safe disposal and recycling. And we can partner with certified e-waste recycling companies, ensuring that the materials are handled properly. And we can launch educational campaigns to raise awareness about the importance of e-waste recycling. And that's what I was saying earlier. I think we can use all type of social media these days and make sure that we reach out to the community to let them know. So there you go. I mean, there are so many things that we can do. And like I said, public awareness campaigns is the most important, and we need to launch educational campaigns to raise awareness about that. And it can include workshops, community events, and information distributed throughout local channels like city website, social media, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. There are so many ways to let the people know on how we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we'll go to Rod Sinks.
Yeah, this is obviously a big and growing problem. I mean, our electronics in some ways is getting smaller, right? This phone that I have does so many things for me, and I used to buy discrete, separate products. So things are smaller, but I'll tell you, I lived in Europe for 2 years. I lived in Sweden after high school and during my college years and studied there for a bit. And they have long led on this. They basically have a return to source policy for products. So that means that when products reach the end of their lives, they go back to the companies that manufactured them, and those companies are responsible for deconvolving all the parts that make the product and recycling a high fraction of the content. It's not easy, I'm sure, with an iPhone, but it ought to be, I think, the case. We studied this on the County Recycling and Waste Reduction Commission. It's hard to, as a city or as a region, as a county, to mandate this. This is something that really is best tackled at the federal level. I mean, if not the state level, right? We do, as a state, we lead in auto emissions because the federal government lets us do that and we're a big enough market. This is the kind of problem that is ideally handled by the federal government. So I have talked to our Congressman Ro Khanna about return to source law that would help products sold in the United States be returned to their manufacturer at the end of their life. And then, you'd have a certain fraction of that content that has to be recycled, whether it's lithium in batteries or the glass or the various precious metals that get used for manufacturing electronics. And so I think we can partner with other agencies at the state and federal level to be more effective at this.
Thank you so much. We have another question in the Q&A. Do the panelists have any thoughts regarding artificial turf? Recently, I've heard more about weighing plastic use in turf versus water usage for real grass. So which is more sustainable?
Would you like me to start here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So this is a really challenging topic. When it came up at the high school, we had a big push. There was a study conducted by Kavita Gupta and her students, and students from across the district that said, by 2/3 to 1/3, we want artificial turf as a surface to have our band march on, to play on, and so forth. And it has to do about availability. So the way I look at artificial turf at the high school level is, or the college level is, this is a performance athletic surface. It's not really a parkland, right? So there, and I supported the majority in making a unanimous decision, given that it was somewhat controversial to use it. I think, though, in other places in the city, if there isn't that high intensity use that comes from, being out around on the field 5 days a week or more, every day for multiple hours, that natural turf makes the most sense. It's true we spend less water on artificial turf, but it is plastic, despite the fact that we can now fill with instead of ground up tires, which have their own problems, including much greater heat radiation absorption and then re-radiation. We're now doing this with olive pits, but despite this, right, it is a lot of plastic. So we insisted that our old artificial turf go to a recycling plant. We did pay more to do that. We have a problem in general with just too much plastic, but there are places where it is a good solution for now until we find a better alternative. But in general, I like natural turf for less intensive uses.
Thank you, Rod Sinks. Now we can go to Claudio Bono.
So one of the primary arguments for artificial turf is the ability to conserve water. Natural grass requires significant irrigation, especially in regions like ours. Again, it's pretty hot, and we actually had excess of heat not a long time ago. In contrast, artificial turf does not need watering. It can be a substantial benefit in area facing water issues, right? And artificial turf is typically made from various type of plastic. I cannot even pronounce the name of polyethylene and nylon or something like that. And so the production and the disposal of these materials raise concerns about environmental sustainability. So artificial turf can absorb and retain heat, leading to a higher surface temperature compared to natural grass. So while artificial turf require less ongoing maintenance, it has an infinite lifespan and may need to be replaced I heard 12 to 15 years or 10 to 15 years, but it can contribute to waste and require additional resources for disposal. So there are ongoing discussion about the potential health risk associated with the artificial turf, but in conclusion, the decision between artificial turf and natural grass should consider local environment condition and water availability, community preference, and long-term sustainability goal. So we need to engage again with community and to get an outreach and to really listen and to know what we're going to do and what is the resident actually wants to do in that regard.
Thank you so much for your responses. We have our next question from Gwyn. I'm curious about how the city can support or work with VTA in expanding service and making public transit a more accessible, preferable option for people to get around the city and Silicon Valley. What are the candidates' perspectives on this, and what are specific actions that the city can take? We can start with Claudio Bono and then move to Rod Sinks.
Rod, do you mind taking this one first? Because I'm gonna have to look back where my Q&A thing is, if you don't mind. So sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, sure. So, one of the main points of, I talked about how we got an on-demand shuttle program here. I'd been to cities conferences and Lyft was saying, look, we can fill in where public transportation is sparse. Uber had said this. I invited them to come to City Hall and meet with our city manager and transportation specialists. And the problem is, we said, okay, do you take bikes? No, it's users' vehicles. We can't mandate that. So what happens for a student who wants to bike to school and then late at night after practice or something when it's dark, bike home? Well, we don't handle that. What about wheelchairs for seniors? We don't do that. Same reason. Can you give us the data that we would use to justify new fixed route bus service from VTA? If we can demonstrate enough demand. No, that's all confidential. We can't share that data. So that's when we turn to a specialty provider, a company called VIA, that's an operation in many places of the world, including Germany and Israel and also in Asia. And they provide all of these things. So now, as this service becomes really popular and people are getting used to not getting in their cars to go wherever they're going, we actually have an opportunity to take that data, right, and go to VTA and say, hey, here we have a substantial number of folks coming every day from the Sunnyvale train station to Apple, or we have kids leaving our schools at such and such a time, or going to our schools. How about putting a bus line here, right? These are the sorts of things that cities can do to innovate. But it's I think that's where the opportunity is, to demonstrate demand, and then we're competing with other cities to get the service from VTA.
Thank you so much. Now on to Claudio Bono.
Yeah, thank you. Well, services and making it public transit more accessible to Cupertino, we can do it different ways. First and foremost, we need to work closely with VTA and to create a coordinated transit plan to identify key areas for services expansion. We need to advocate for funding from the state and federal sources. It can include lobbying for grants and subsidies and bonds. And we have to invest in our transit-related infrastructure, such as the bus stops, shelters, and amenities. But again, keep in mind, transportation or those kind of issues are not just a Cupertino issue, but a regional issue. So we also need to implement programs that improve the last mile connectivity, community shuttle services. I think it's very sad to hear that we're in Silicon Valley, and yet I have to tell you, I was born in Europe, and we have way more of a transit system that is here, and yet we're supposed to be known as the best city in the world, right? So we need to support development of flexible fare programs as well to cater to different demographics, such as discount for students and seniors and low-income individuals. So we have a long way to go. But we need to work with VTA to assess and enhance the frequency and services hours of transit route, especially during peak travel time. I genuinely don't believe that any of that has been established, or if it's not really there. So, and we need to actively involve the community in discussion about public transit needs and preference, hosting public forums, workshops, and surveys, and we can get valuable insight on how best to serve the residents here in Cupertino. Thank you. I can't see anything. I'm so sorry. I have issues with my screen, so I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. We're gonna move on to our next question, which I think this will be our final or one of our final questions. We may have to move on soon. In the Q&A, I'm curious about how the community individuals can create a larger impact in our community for combating environmental degradation. Are there any valuable opportunities to participate in? And do the panelists have any tips or ideas to do so? We can start with Rod Zinks.
Okay. Well, I mentioned one route, which is you can join the Rotary Club Climate Action Committee projects, either putting solar on nonprofits or working on electrifying our built environment. That could be one way. We, let's see, how can youth be involved? I know that we have some people that think that if we get the right people elected in this particular race and other races who are climate champions, we'll do better. I hope I've earned your vote this evening. If you want to help our campaign, you can contact me. I'd love to have you walking precincts. That's basically what we're all about right now, and teach you about how political operations work. Senator Josh Becker, who's destined to be the next representative here in the state assembly, is a climate leader. So he's another person I would commend to your study. I think our congressman, Ro Khanna, is another person. So, there are plenty of people who are moving the needle. But as I said earlier, when things come up that are controversial, we don't want to change, we don't want a bike lane, we don't want this, we don't want that, we don't want transit. You have the ability to organize and show up. And when you do that, it makes it much easier for people like me to get other people who are a little maybe recalcitrant to say yes. That's the only reason we have the Regnart Creek Trail. We had a lot of folks that said, I don't want to give up the parking in front of my house for a bike lane, right? So I would say that these are very significant things. And when we work together, when the community organizes and works together, we can get a lot done.
Thank you, Raz Sinks. Now on to Claudio Bono.
Well, members of the community, even in Cupertino, can make significant impact on combating environmental degradation through various initiatives. And look, nonprofits, you can engage with local nonprofits. I'm in with multiple of them, and especially those who are focused on environmental issues like the Sierra Club or local conservation groups. These organizations, they have volunteer opportunities and events and campaign where community members can contribute. So take part in organized cleanup events. And I did this recently with the city of Cupertino. It's fun on top of that. So you can also have or start join a community garden that promotes local food production and biodiversity. They can also serve as educational spaces for sustainable gardening practices. You can also attend city council meeting and engage in discussion about sustainability initiatives and advocate for policies that promote renewable energy, waste reduction, and green infrastructure in Cupertino. So there are a lot of things that you can do. And you can host or participate in workshops that focus on environmental topics such as composting, recycling, sustainable living, or promote and shop at local farmers market that prioritize sustainable and organic practices. So there's so many things you can do and collaborate with others who share an interest in environmental issues as well, or clubs, and advocate for better recycling practices within the community and promote initiatives like composting program. Educate the neighbors about reducing single-use plastic and other waste. So there's tons of stuff, but by actively participating in these opportunities, well, everyone can contribute to a larger movement towards sustainability and environment protection in Cupertino. And so we can create a nicer and healthier and a resilient community.
Thank you so much. Our next question from Ling. I've heard about the VTA's Safe Routes to School project, trying to create safer bike routes and pedestrian pathways. How will you work with the community to push this project forward? The project has been delayed a lot. And would you be supportive of funding the project? We'll start with Claudio Bono.
I'm sorry, Rod, can you take that one? I have to always get out and go back in to get that text here.
So, we partner with VTA on a lot of things. I would say that the city has had a robust Safe Routes to School program that started about a decade ago. We hired our first Safe Routes to School coordinator in the city. If VTA has additional funding to help the city now, I would welcome that. If it's a VTA initiative that helps us, connect other cities, I think that would be great. I'm not sure if it makes sense if we said, okay, we have an extra $100,000, right? Do we put it into our own Safe Routes to Schools efforts, or do we work through VTA? So I'm not sure if that funding is additive or if it's a zero-sum game. So I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what I would do here without knowing more context. But I would say that Safe Routes to School is a very important program. When I started on the council, we did not have a Safe Routes to School coordinator. And when we got our first one, at the Silicon Valley Summit, we got an award for the work that had been done. Again, this goes back 10 years to the student who was killed and all of the energy at that time to create a great bike plan, our 2016 landmark bike plan, which we've now substantially implemented. And that is certainly a primary way to get more kids out using what we call active transportation. So our Safe Routes to School program will remain really important however it gets funded. And we need to continue. Our Rotary Club our Climate Action Committee again is doing cyclic bike counts at all of our high schools to keep track of how we're doing and measuring progress.
And thank you, Rod. And unfortunately, I cannot see the Q&A here. So if you could kindly please give the question again, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. It's actually under answered if you can't find it right now. Under I think the name is Ling Sheng.
I cannot see the Q&A box at all. I'm so sorry. If you could read the question for me, that'd be great.
Yes, I'll read it again. So I've heard about.
Oops.
So the question is, I've heard about the VTA Safe Routes to School project, trying to create safer bike routes and pedestrian pathways. How will you work with the community to push this project forward? The project has been delayed a lot. And would you be supportive of funding the project? It's also in the chat now.
And also, I am not too sure, but I would like to give I'm not too sure what the participant is saying, but in context with another project, there is also a Homestead Safe Routes to School project that sounds similar to what the audience member is asking about, and it has been delayed due to multiple jurisdictions surrounding it. Yeah, for some context. Would you like to answer the question, Claudio Bono?
Yes. All right. I'm so sorry about that. So the Safe Route to School project is an essential initiative aimed at creating safer bike routes and pedestrian pathways for students. And so we need to organize community meetings or forums to discuss the project and gather information from and inputs from residents, parents, and students, so that engagement actually can help identify specific safety concern and desired improvement in the area. We need to work with local advocacy group to raise awareness about the importance of safe routes for students, use social media and newsletters or local events to inform the community about the project and its benefits. I would personally create a petition to demonstrate community support for the project, collect signatures from parents, students, and residents, and present it to our local government and city council and the VTA to show the demand for a safer route as well. We also need, and I don't think I even haven't mentioned that, we need to engage and partner with schools to involve students and parents in the project. Schools can actually help promote safe biking and walking practices and gather feedback from the community on proposed routes. We need to meet with the city officials, school board members, VTA representative to discuss the project importance and advocate for funding. That will always remain. So attend VTA and city planning meetings to stay informed about the project progress and contribute insights. And launch campaign focus on pedestrian and cycling safety, including education on traffic route rules, safe biking practices, and the benefit of walking or biking to school. I think it can help create a culture of safety within the community. And how long do I have? Oh, there you go. I'm done. So there's a little more to say, but go ahead.
Thank you so much, candidates. We're gonna go to our last question. Unfortunately, we do have to move on. But our last question is from Sashank. At the high school level, I've observed significant litter around campus, especially from school lunch packaging. Are there any citywide initiatives in Cupertino that could help reduce the waste generated by lunch packaging in our local schools? If not food packaging, are there ways to address waste from other resources used in schools, such as paper, handouts, cardboard, and other materials? We can start with Claudio Bono.
Go with Rod again. I'm going to go back to that thing. It's
Oh.
on.
Okay.
Sorry, Rod, I hope you forgive me.
Okay, well, as you know, I am an FUHSD trustee, and we take pride in the food that we prepare that's fresh, made from scratch in our facilities now. Thanks to the federal government funding and the state funding, we've been able to offer meals to all of our students, as probably you all know. And I hope you're taking advantage of them, because we work very hard to make them fresh, and we work very hard to make them to use as little packaging as possible. So yeah, we are interested. You know, there's been a lot of yak and discussion about what about utensils, plastic versus these starch things. And you know, I think we need to be guided by experts on what actually can decompose in a reasonable amount of time, given our current process. And so this is not only an issue, obviously, for schools, but it's also an issue from restaurants and institutions, including De Anza College and including Apple cafeterias in our city, restaurants, and other things. And so we simply have to absolutely minimize our use of plastics in this case, in my view, and use materials that generally decompose within a reasonable amount of time. When they get hauled down to Gilroy, they get put into a facility there way up in the hills. It's quite interesting, and I can highly recommend a field trip to see how things decompose there under heat. And then they come back to us or to agricultural lands where they help fertilize and bring new nutrients to our soils.
Thank you so much. We'll move to Claudio Bono now.
All right. So there are a few things that we can do to address the litter issue around the high school. First and foremost, I'd say the recycling and the composting programs. We should encourage recycling and composting through the municipal services, and school can participate in these programs to manage waste more effectively. Have a community cleanup events. The city often organize cleanup events, where I've been one of them recently, and residents can also volunteer to pick up litter in parks and public space or the schools, and the schools can collaborate with the city to organize similar events on campus. And Cupertino, I know that promotes awareness about waste reduction through educational campaign, but it seems like if this is still happening, then we obviously need to speak to the school and also focus on initiatives that aim at promoting sustainable food practices in schools, such as encouraging the use of reusable containers and minimizing package waste. And offer a green business certification program even to the schools. Maybe that will make them focus more on reducing the waste and litter as well, and so that we can also encourage them to act accordingly. And so if we engage with them that way and with representative and exploring partnerships, we could also enhance this initiative in the school community as well, and make them understand that at the end of the day, everything we do as far to keep our planet, our cities safe and clean and all, if they litter, then they're contributing to that, then they need to understand. So it's all about, again, community outreach. And what a better way to actually start with schools and let them know what's going on so that they can be more in tune as to the why not to litter, especially for such materials that cannot be reused again. Hope that helps.
Thank you so much. Thank you to both the candidates for their insightful responses. Now I'm going to hand it off to Prakriti for closing statements.
Now, candidates, we would like to give each of you a last minute to present your closing statements and your ultimate vision for Cupertino. We will start with Rod Sinks and then Claudio Bono. Rod Sinks, please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your hosting this. And as I said before we got started, it's with regret that we don't have all the candidates participating here this evening. I will reiterate a few main points. I have spent a lot of my time in public office advocating for environmentally friendly policies. I got in actually because I was concerned about the pollution from the cement plant. And people said, "Oh, you speak well enough. Why don't you run for city council?" And I said, "Who, me?" I hope that you all consider at some point becoming part of public service. Either you support a campaign or you decide to run for office yourself and take that step. I am looking forward to serving you again and look forward to being in partnership with you as we go about making this place more sustainable, because you are the future and you deserve to have people that represent you now to move the world forward. And if we work together, those of us who are in office and those of us who organize, we have, I think, a major opportunity to move things along faster. And the needle, as we can tell from all the storms in Florida and every place else, we have not another day to waste to make more faster progress toward these solutions. I'm not sure what the timer's doing here, if I'm done or not, so.
Yes, that would be time.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you all for hosting.
Claudio Bono, you have an extra minute in addition to your original minute.
Well, I wanted to be also saying the same as Rod Sinks. I think, to be honest with you, when I looked at the forum, the summit that you held a month ago with Senator Cortese, if anyone is worried about the next generation, I got to tell you that after that, I think that we're in good hands. And I joined forces with Rod saying that I truly hope that you all going to start thinking of running in local governance, because you are making a big difference. So I wanted to thank you all for hosting this event and giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. As I stand before you as a candidate for the Cupertino City Council, I want to emphasize the urgency of addressing climate change and the importance of sustainability in our community. If I'm elected, I will definitely advocate for innovative policies that promote renewable energy, a reduced carbon emission, enhance our green spaces. I believe in collaborating with local businesses. That's what I've been doing for 10 years, schools and residents to implement sustainable practices that benefit us all. And we can transform Cupertino into a leading example of environmental stewardship and where economy growth and sustainability go hand in hand. And let's create a future where our kids can actually thrive in a clean, green, and resilient community. And I look forward to working together to make Cupertino a model for sustainability. And if you can vote, please, and by the way, I want to remember, please vote yes on the climate resilience bond on the ballot in November 5th. It's important. And my name is Claudio Bono. If you can vote, vote number 3 on the ballot, as well as with Rod Sinks. And thank you so much for your time today, and my sincere apologies for the little technical issues that I'm having in my PC, but I'm glad I did not get booted out like 2 days ago. So thank you again, everybody.
Thank you so much, both candidates, for your closing statements and your time. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to discuss climate issues at our forum. Here are some contact informations for our attendees. As presented, here's Claudio Bono's website and Rod Singh's website.
Thank you so much. I'd like to just have a last few reminders about voting in Cupertino. We really would like to remind you to vote for this upcoming election in November. All registered voters in California should receive a physical ballot in the mail, and you have until November 3rd to mail in your ballot. Additionally, you can find voter centers all around Cupertino and surrounding cities to either vote in person or even just to drop off your ballot. Once again, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much, Claudia Bono and Rod Sinks, for spending your time with us today. And yeah, just please vote, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.